You've probably never actually seen the Earth's curve. Not really. You've seen photos from space, you've seen globes in classrooms. But with your own eyes, sitting outside right now, it looks flat. The road looks flat, the ocean looks flat, the horizon looks like someone drew it with a ruler. And that simple observation has convinced thousands of people that the Earth is flat. Which raises a really interesting question. If the Earth is round, why can't we see it? The answer is actually way more interesting than the conspiracy. But first, we need to talk about something your brain is very bad at understanding. Scale. The Earth is about 24,901 miles around. That's huge. But numbers like that don't mean anything to our brains. So let's shrink it down. Imagine the Earth was the size of a basketball. If you were standing on that basketball, your height would be about the thickness of a human hair. Now imagine that tiny hair yelling, "I don't see any curve." Yeah, of course you don't. The curve exists, but it's so gradual that from our perspective, it looks flat. But here's where it gets weird. Because there are ways to see the curve. People have been observing it for thousands of years. In fact, one guy figured it out with nothing but a stick and a shadow, and he lived over 2,200 years ago. In 240 BC, a mathematician named Eratosthenes did something that still blows my mind. He heard that in one Egyptian city, the sun shined directly down a well at noon on the summer solstice, meaning no shadow. But in another city north of it, objects did cast a shadow. So he measured the angle of the shadow, then he measured the distance between two cities, and using basic geometry, he calculated the circumference of the Earth. He was shockingly close. Again, no satellites, no NASA, no computers, just math, sunlight, and sandals. But if the Earth is round, why does the horizon still look perfectly flat? That's where the next illusion comes in. Your brain is terrible at detecting very slight curves. The Earth curves at about 8 inches per mile. 8 inches. That's the height of a coffee mug. So imagine driving a mile and expecting the road to suddenly dip like a roller coaster. It doesn't. The curve is incredibly gradual, but there's one place where it reveals itself. The horizon. If the Earth were flat, the horizon would stay at eye level no matter how high you went, but it doesn't. As you go higher, the horizon actually drops slightly below eye level. Pilots measure this, astronauts measure this. Even flat Earth experimenters have accidentally measured this. But the horizon does something else that's even harder to explain on a flat Earth. Ships disappear, and not the way you'd expect. When a ship sails away from shore, something interesting happens. It doesn't just shrink into the distance. First, the hull disappears, then the middle, then the mast. Bottom first. That only happens if the ship is slowly moving behind a curve. If the Earth were flat, the entire ship would simply get smaller until it vanished. And zooming in with a camera would bring the whole ship back. But it doesn't. People have been observing this since ancient Greece, which means by the time the internet showed up, the round Earth debate had been settled for about 2,000 years. So why do people still believe the Earth is flat? The answer actually has very little to do with science. Flat Earth belief isn't really about geometry. It's about trust. Throughout history, governments and institutions have lied about plenty of things. So when someone says, "What if they're lying about this too?" that idea resonates with some people. Add the internet, algorithm rabbit holes, and communities built around shared belief, and suddenly the theory feels less crazy inside the bubble. But there's one big problem with the flat Earth idea. Actually, thousands of problems. Because modern technology depends on the Earth being round. Every time you use GPS, you're relying on satellites orbiting the Earth. Thousands of them. Systems used by airlines, shipping companies, weather forecasting, telecommunications, all depend on math that assumes the Earth is spherical. If the Earth were flat, those systems would break almost immediately. Planes wouldn't navigate properly, satellites wouldn't orbit correctly, and your Uber driver would end up 3 states away. But even with all that evidence, some people still ask the original question, why can't I see the curve? And honestly, that question makes sense, because the real answer is surprisingly simple. You can't see the curve for the same reason you can't see your hair growing. It's happening, it's just happening too slowly and on too large a scale for your brain to notice. You are standing on something so absurdly massive that it looks flat. Which means the biggest misunderstanding in the flat Earth debate is this. People assume the Earth should look curved, like a basketball. But the Earth isn't a basketball. It's the size of a planet. And when something gets that big, flat is exactly what it looks like. The Earth is round. You're just too small to notice. No offense.